In the dead heat of the Egyptian desert, beneath the familiar shadow of the Khafre Pyramid, something impossible has just been found. Not an artifact and not a tomb, but a system of underground structures so deep, so precise, and so massive that it threatens to rewrite every textbook in human history. We are talking about 8 spiral shafts, each plunging twice the height of the Eiffel Tower straight down into the earth. A hidden complex stretching miles, and a discovery method that didn't require a single shovel. In fact, it came from space. And this isn't just a theory, it's not an ancient alien meme. It's a peer-reviewed, satellite-verified anomaly that has left even the most seasoned archaeologist scrambling for explanations. And if it's real, it means the ancient Egyptians, or whoever came before them, were far more advanced than we ever could have believed. Just last week, March 15th, 2025, a press conference from 3 researchers most people had never heard of. Corrado Malenga from the University of Pisa, Filippo Biondi from the University of Strathclyde, I hope I said that right, and Armando Mie, an independent researcher from Italy. And their tone was calm, scientific, and measured. But their findings were anything but that. You see, using a new form of satellite-based radar scanning, the team revealed what they called evidence of massive engineered structures beneath the Khafre Pyramid, including cylindrical wells, multi-level rectangular platforms, and massive underground voids. Now, I get it, at first glance it sounds like yet another, conspiracy fringe theory. But when the scientific community realized how they discovered it, that's when the panic started. The technology is called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography, also known as SAR. And it's like giving the Earth an MRI. Unlike, ground penetrating radar or invasive digs, this tool uses electromagnetic waves bounced off the surface of Earth from satellites in orbit. But instead of, just showing shapes, this version measures vibrations. Tiny little seismic tremors invisible to the human body. Everything on Earth vibrates, whether it's the wind, tectonic pressure, or even human activity. And by analyzing how those vibrations travel through the ground, researchers can help map what's inside solid stone without even setting foot near the sand. And some of you might know that in 2022, the team tested it on the Great Pyramid of Khafre, and they successfully mapped known chambers and then found new ones. That paper was peer-reviewed and published in a respected scientific journal. So the tool worked, and now they pointed it to the Pyramid of Khafre. And what they found didn't just shock archaeologists, it literally scared them. Because just beneath the Khafre Pyramid, the radar data showed 5 massive rectangular formations, and each of them had 5 levels. Slopped ceilings, clean corners, straight corridors. They were not caves, and they were not rooms. And beneath those were these 8 vertical walls arranged in 2 perfect rows. Each well was hollow, spiraling, and plunged 648 meters, which is over 2,100 feet, into the earth. Now, for reference or scale, that's almost twice the height of the Eiffel Tower, drilled into bedrock, thousands of years ago. But at the bottom, there's more. There were 2 cubed shapes like Arch of the Covenant type chambers, right? Each about 80 meters wide, the size of a 25-story building. And still, that wasn't the end, because the radar scan stretched even further outward beneath the plateau itself. The network extended 1.2 miles. I mean, researchers began calling it what it looked like, which was a city. And the most terrifying question was, what was it for? Because for decades, you see, we've been told the pyramids were tombs, elaborate burial monuments built by the ancient laborers using rams, sleds, and stone tools. But you see, for one, I never quite believed this personally. On a personal note, I made 10 shorts about 3 years ago on Instagram, and that's actually how my Instagram went viral, and it was all based on how the pyramids were made. That's just a side note. But nothing about these new findings support that. I mean, they were not burial chambers. They looked like a system, something functional, something engineered. I hope you guys know what this means. So the researchers at this moment, they began comparing them to modern oil platforms, to reactor cores in hydro systems, massive wells drawing up water, spiral passageways, channeling flow, and multi-level platforms for distribution. So could the pyramids have been part of an ancient machine? And if so, what were they trying to power? Well, you see, the Nile River once flowed very much closer to Giza. Ancient Egyptian texts describe boats literally arriving at the pyramids, something that makes no sense today with the river being miles away, but thousands of years ago, the water was right there. Now, if these wells tapped into the groundwater table, they could have channeled water through the pyramid structure itself. Some researchers have even proposed that the king's chamber resonates at specific frequencies, like a giant acoustic amplifier. Water, sound, stone, the three elements that, when combined, create movement, vibration, and even electrical charge. So at this point, it's not a leap to think that this may have been a primitive form of power generation, or a spiritual tool designed to mimic the movement of the heavens, or both. But here's where things get darker, okay? Right next to Khafre sits the Great Sphinx. We've all seen it, and its body is very weathered. Not by sand or wind, but by rain. Deep, vertical erosion. But, and this is what I described in some of my shorts, it hasn't rained like that in Egypt for over 10,000 years. Remember, they say that the Great Pyramids were built in about 3,2800 BC. So this would prove that that's all baloney. Because even geologists believe that the last time that region saw this kind of precipitation was between 10,000 and 12,000 years ago, during the end of the last ice age, which means one of two things. The Sphinx and possibly the pyramid structures were built before dynastic Egypt. Or, number two, they were built using materials that already existed from an earlier, lost civilization, maybe Atlantis. Either way, it completely destroys the traditional timeline of human history. And if you think that's just speculation, you haven't heard about the Eye of the Sahara. Because in Mauritania, West Africa, there's a massive structure known as the Rikat structure, also called the Eye of the Sahara. And from space, it looks like a gigantic bullseye, a series of perfect concentric rings carved into the desert. In fact, Plato's description of Atlantis was also a city of concentric rings, and it was surrounded by water, connected to the sea. And according to Plato, it was destroyed in about 9,600 BCE, during a time of global flooding and chaos. Sound familiar? The Eye of the Sahara is just 350 miles from the coast, and it fits Plato's description almost perfectly. So many now believe the survivors of Atlantis, or a civilization that was like it, may have migrated east and brought their knowledge to the Nile. Because the ancient Egyptians even spoke of the Zep Tepi, which is the first time when the gods came down and taught humanity everything. But what if those gods were the survivors of a fallen civilization? And what if they built something beneath the Khafre that we still do not understand? And this cannot be ignored. You see, the researchers behind this discovery, now calling themselves the Khafre Project, you can actually look them up on Facebook. Mind you, it is in Italy, so you are going to have to transcribe it. Use a tool like on X, use Grok, it really helps. But they've published the coordinates of the anomalies, and they're calling for non-invasive follow-up scans, muon detectors, seismic mapping, and even deeper SAR passes. And because this technology is satellite-based, there's no way to block it. Not even the Egyptian government can stop it. And that is why they went public. And remember, this was all just about a week ago. They bypassed the gatekeepers of archaeology and handed the data straight to the people of the world. We love that. But that's where we hit a wall. Because if this is real, and it's pointing to that it could be, then the implications aren't just academic, they're civilizational. Everything that we have been told about the origins of civilization, the idea that humans were primitive hunter-gatherers until about 6,000 years ago, is now completely up for debate. These underground structures beneath the Khafre weren't built with copper tools and slave labor. They weren't carved by accident. They were engineered with a level of precision, scale, and intention that rival modern infrastructure. Think about that. That alone should stop the world in its tracks. That's the one that keeps me up at night. Because the timeline of this construction, if confirmed, places it not in the era of the pharaohs, but in the exact same window that Plato gave for the fall of Atlantis. Everything we thought we were taught could be a lie about this part of history. 9,600 BCE, right as the Ice Age ended, right as global flooding reshaped every coastline on Earth. So here's the terrifying question. What if these underground structures weren't just relics of the past? What if they were warnings? What if what's buried underneath Giza isn't just a tomb or even a machine or a secret chamber? What if it's a memory? You see, the people right now believe that it actually could have been a way for the pharaohs to go into the heavens. Now that's a completely different story, but I thought you should know that. But what if this is a reminder from a civilization that saw the end and tried to leave us behind something? The scariest part is that, guess what? It's still down there, but it's just waiting to be understood. And hopefully soon we will understand that. Now, if you like videos like these, please give it a like and let me know if you want me to do more of these in the future. If not, then check out this video and remember that the next one is coming in Thursday, 2 days, and it's a banger, okay? I love you guys. That's all I got for you. I'll see you next time. Cheers.